Hi, Jamie. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Kim, thanks for having me.
So I want to start off by telling everybody who's listening or watching that if there is a lag here, it's because, I don't know, you're across the big pond and we're over here and we're doing the best we can with whatever signals that we're getting wherever we are. So we're just going to make the
And
best
I
of it.
have very limited internet, so that probably is a huge contributing factor to whatever may happen.
Well, we're going to make the best of it. Like you and I always have over the years, we just make the best of it. So what I would
Absolutely.
like to do is I would like to read the bio that you provided to me. And this is what we do with all of our guests. We ask you to provide a bio, and we read that, and then we just go from there. So J.C. Keough, being you, writes magical mysteries with supernatural shenanigans. She is the creator of Laramie Harper Chronicles and She's Louise Cozy Mystery Series. Jamie is currently working on books in both series, along with the first book in a new series named The Texas Tender Mysteries. The Tender Mysteries will combine beer, boats, murder, and ghosts. Jamie grew up in a small town in the great state of Texas. At the first opportunity, she escaped what felt like a metropolis, but in reality was only a medium-sized town to attend university. Go Rams. After graduation, she headed to landed in the Big D, which is Dallas, an actual large city, where she embarked on a career in law enforcement. After 25 years of wrangling the citizens of Dallas, Jamie retired from police work. At her husband's insistence, they pulled up stakes and moved lock, stock, and dogs to Ireland. There, Jamie combined her love of wine, dogs, history, and bumpies, all things that go bump in the night, and the Laramie Harper Chronicles were born. Jamie lives in a small town, oh, the irony of that, on the southwest coast of Ireland with her husband, Paul, also a retired Dallas police officer. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's about it. That's just kind of the basic bio I have on my website, and it changes a little bit here and there, but that pretty much sums it up.
Did I pronounce all the names of your books and characters correctly? Because I do have a habit of mangling important words.
I thought you did great.
Thank you. Thank you. So the next thing I'd like to do is introduce how we know each other. And some of our guests, I don't know, they were just recommended that they would be interesting to talk to. But you and I've known you forever and ever and ever. My ex-husband was one of your trainers. So I would have met you when I was pregnant with my oldest son, and he turns 31 next month.
I was riding with your ex-husband the day that you found out you were pregnant, and you had him go over to a different radio channel and you told him you were pregnant. And we were in a crack house, in a crack house in South Dallas, when he found out that you were pregnant, and I just happened to be there.
Isn't that the funniest thing? Because these days, nobody, this younger generation, or even maybe us, if we don't remember, we didn't have cell phones back then. You changed the channel on the radio, or heck, you borrowed somebody's phone and you called dispatch and you asked them to tell the person or whatever. So, so you have been there from the beginning, really, the knowledge of my oldest son. So, and then we also, we worked together on and off in patrol. And then we would attend some of the same meetings and stuff whenever we were assigned different locations, different assignments and different bureaus, divisions, whatever they were calling it at the time. And now we're both retired. Both retired. Very exciting. So I do have some interesting questions for you. Now, normally when I do this, it's kind of free flowing and all, but you have so much information that I didn't want to miss any of it. And so it might be a little scripted this time. If it becomes too scripted for you, just tell me and we'll just, well, let's face it, you and I have had many conversations that have never actually stayed on topic. So
it's not going to. We're going to be all over the place. And I said that when we talked about, we don't have to stick to anything that we've talked about. We can just go with it. I just, as I've repeatedly told you, I'm really nervous about being on camera. So it helped me to kind of put down a lot of thoughts on paper and us to kind of talk about that. But we don't have to, it doesn't have to go that route.
Well, I think no matter
It
how
probably won't.
I think no matter how it goes, though, that we will have a listener, a first responder, the spouse of a first responder is going to hear something that you have to say. And I think it's going to be very valuable. So let's get going and let's see how long we stay on our plan. So when
Okay.
did you retire?
I retired in 2016 after 25 years with the Dallas Police Department. My husband, as we already mentioned, he was a police officer also, and he retired about 7 months before I did, and he had 35 years on. And he was just really ready to go and ready to make this move that we made to Ireland. So I left at 25 and have never looked back. It was the best decision.
The retirement or the move?
The retirement. The move's pretty cool too, though.
You started a new career.
Yes. Yes.
Let's hear about that.
I started. So yes, I started a new career. It wasn't right away, and a lot of what you do in your business is you talk about being prepared for retirement. And so we had just had a whole lot of focus on the move. And so I knew that I wanted a second career after I retired, but I just really didn't know what that would be. So I wanted to take some time after I retired from the department. And I had a couple of friends that were all kind of retiring at the same time or had retired, and we were looking to do something. And so we decided we would do a Camino, which was a walk across Spain. And so that's, it took us about a month and a half, and it's a pilgrimage walk is what it is. And so it, in Santiago, which is in Santiago, Spain, there it has a big cathedral, and there they have a relic from St. James, one of the apostles. And so it started way back in like the 10th century that people started doing pilgrimages from all over Europe to walk to the cathedral in Santiago and see the relic of St. James. And he's also supposed to be buried in the area. So we started in a little French town called Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port and walked out of France across Spain. It was about 480 miles. Like I said, it took us about a month, and that we did this. And we took the route that's called, the whole thing is called the Way of St. James, but there are numerous routes. And we took the what they call the France route, the Francis route, through France, because we started in France. And so that was really what I did to kind of try and transition into retirement, and to set aside and decide what I really wanted to do.
So you did the El Camino because you had heard that people have breakthroughs on it, or you knew that you would have one? I mean, because that's a long way to walk to get an idea. So I'm really curious of the process on that.
So what happened, I've gone to the same hairdresser in Dallas for about 25 years. He's just the coolest guy. And I always say when I grow up, I want to be like him. He takes the coolest trips. He just is always fun. And so when I was probably about a year out from retirement, we were having a conversation, and he started talking about that one of the trips that he and his wife wanted to do was they wanted to go and they wanted to walk the Camino. I said, what are you talking about? I hadn't heard anything about it. And he said, oh, there's this movie. He said that you have to watch this movie. It's Martin Sheen and Emilio Estevez. It's called The Way. It's a fictional movie, but it goes through this, the pilgrimage part. Martin Sheen ends up reluctantly doing this pilgrimage, and not giving too much of the plot away, but he ends up kind of ending up with this ragtag group of people who are also doing it. So they all kind of end up walking together and having adventures together. And so they're each kind of wanting something. Each person is walking for a different reason, kind of wanting this, wanting to come up with with something in their life. Again, trying not to give away the plot. And so it just resonated with me and the friends that were retiring. We all watched it together and we said, yes, let's do this. That this will be a good kind of kickoff to our retirement. Yeah. And so that's how we decided to do that. And much like the characters, you know, I really, like I said, I was wanting to figure out what I was going to do in the second half of my life. This is my second career. And I thought this will give me a lot of time to really focus on that and think about it. And yes, I know it sounds crazy to walk for a month to kind of figure that out, but it was a good break. It was a good break in between ending a career and starting the next one.
And did it come to you on that journey, on that pilgrimage? Did it hit you like upside the head? I'm going to write?
Well, so I just think this is like the best story. But yes, as I was walking, so I had always, years and years ago, I had wanted to write, and I had all these ideas, and I always thought someday I'll write a novel. But I had seen this interview with an author that I'm a huge fan of, and she was talking in her interview, and I probably saw this a good 15 years ago or so. And she said, oh, if you just say that someday you're going to do it, she said, everybody that says someday they're going to write, they're never going to write. If you're a writer, you write. You're just going to write every minute you have available. If you don't do that, then you're not a real writer. And so I really kind of took that to heart. And I said, oh, you know, I must not be a writer, and I'll never write. And so I've got to figure out something else to do when I retire. But so anyway, so I'm on this walk, and probably a week or two in, and as you do on these, there's so many other people walking. And if you come across somebody that kind of walks the same speed, you may walk for a while, and you always talk about, well, why are you walking it? What are you hoping to get out of this? What's your goal? So this lady starts walking with me, and she is this Russian lady. She's from Russia. She had defected to the US like in the 80s. And this was just fascinating to me. I have a degree in history, and one of my favorite topics is Russian history. And I just thought how bizarre that this lady, I end up walking with somebody who'd actually defected from Russia. And so we talked about that for a while. And then she said, you know, why are you walking? And I explained, just retired from a career in police, you know, with the police department. And I was trying to figure out what I would do next. And we walked maybe about 10 steps in just complete silence. And then she looked at me and she said, you should be a mystery writer. And it was just like, I got just goosebumps all over, because it was like, I said, that's what I've always wanted to do. I just don't know if I can. She's like, of course you can. You are going to be a mystery writer. And as silly as it sounds, I just needed that. I needed somebody to give me permission to go ahead and try it. So that was kind of what kicked it off.
You know, I'm not surprised at all about that. As a matter of fact, if somebody, well, when I do tell people about you, because I always tell people about, oh, my friend, this published writer who lives in Ireland, you know, because I just love it. But they're like, oh, wow, has she always been a writer? And I always say, she's always been so creative. Yes, I'm sure she's always been writing, because you've always been so creative. You've always been very creative in how you express yourself. And heck, you know, when you would walk into our office, you come into mine, I got blue pens and white paper. You know, you look over at your desk and you've got different little sticky pads and different colored pens and all this great stuff that really just expresses creativity. And I'll be honest, I have included that in my life since then. So because it makes me feel more creative to mimic somebody who is very creative. So it was no surprise at all that you to me at least, that you started writing. It was no surprise at all to me that your books are funny and warm and engaging and interesting. And it's just no surprise at all, because I guess maybe that's not fair to say that that's your personality, because it's not just your personality. You obviously have talent. There's a lot of people who have a great personality and can't write. So you have the great personality and you can write. So I want to make sure that I give enough credit, because I know that just from our conversations, I know that while you are a writer at heart, it is not always easy to do what we feel called to do. You know, there are things about it that hook us up, like technology and stuff like that. You and I have talked also in the past about, and I'm referring back to a question I asked about a year ago to retirees of, what did you do in your previous life that you do now, or what do you wish you've done? And you said something very, very, very actually brilliant. And that is, if you're not doing it while you're working, you're probably not going to do it when you retire. And not because lack of time or whatever, but it's just like, if it didn't matter to you to take the effort while you were working, are you necessarily going to make the effort to do it when you retire? And we were talking along probably lines of fitness and health and stuff like that. I've shared that with a lot of people, and it's been a great conversation starter for folks. And it's really made people stop and think, oh, if I want to be in shape later, I should probably, see what I like doing now. Do you still stand by that statement?
I do. And I know it sounds kind of crazy after we just talked about that I really didn't write a lot while I was working, and that now I've picked up this career. Yeah. And I think there were things wrapped up in that. It wasn't so much me not writing, wasn't so much that I didn't have time. I think it was just I was scared to, because that was kind of my ultimate dream of someday I can do this. And I was scared to start, to even try, because I thought, if I try this and I fail, then what's the big dream? What am I going to do then? So I want to explain a little bit that, because it sounds crazy that I'm saying this about when that if you didn't do it when you were working, you won't do it in retirement. But we just had the conversation about that I wasn't writing when I was working. So I just wanted to clarify that is why I never wrote. But really what comes to mind for me, kind of what I refer to that, some of that is the health and fitness part. But like for me, I hate cleaning a house. I hate it. But there was this, I always thought that I always thought that I would just have this perfectly clean, organized house once I retired and had time to do it. And I would have a perfect yard and garden, and all of my flowers would be perfect because I would have the time to commit to it. And what I found out probably in the first year is that I've never done this. I don't have a clean house or organized house, and I don't have a perfect garden because I really don't enjoy doing that. And it wasn't ever about time. If I had enjoyed it, I would have made the time to do it when I was working. And so what it came down to is that they just weren't things that I wanted to dedicate my time to. Yeah. But when you first you're coming to that in retirement, and there are all these things that you thought were going to be perfect, and they're still not perfect, it's really easy to beat yourself up and, well, what's wrong with me? And I'm so lazy and da 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 da. And it's just, why dedicate your time to things you don't like to do? And yes, we all do have to clean our house some and organize, but I just really thought I was going to have a perfect house and a perfect yard when I had the time to do it. No. I won't ever, because I don't enjoy it.
And that's actually the example that you listed. And when I have one-to-one conversations with people, that's actually what I mentioned to them, and it's funny because you can just see, or when I'm on the phone with a client, you can hear it in their voice. It's like the pressure's off of them. They don't like it. They don't want to do it. There's other things in life they want to do, whatever it happens to be. And it's like, like you said, with your Russian walker, they gave you permission to do something. When we have the conversation, hey, other retirees, they don't do it either. They didn't do it while they were working. They don't want to do it when they retire. Now, like you, there are things that I do now that I would have never thought that I would do while I was still doing cop work. As a matter of fact, when I retired, I said, I'm done with people. I'm done with people. I'm not going to do anything to help anybody. They're on their own. I don't care, yada, yada, yada. Now I have 2 coaching businesses, I mean, who would have thought? I would have said a hard hell no to that if somebody told me that I would be doing that. It was never a dream of mine, but I am hardwired to serve people. And I realize that it's very important to me to be in a position to help people if I can. So that's just kind of how that went. Do
Yeah.
you?
And just, I am going to take a left here, as we talked about. And it's the thing that I always tell people, going back to police officers. I worked in recruiting for several years when I was on the department. And when you hire on, and I'm sure you remember, that you have to write a letter as far as why do you want it? That's Kaylee. I knew she would make herself heard. It's why, but anyway, Kaylee, come here.
You heard my dogs a minute ago, right? Did you hear Lottie a minute ago? Come over here.
Yes, but it was not like that. But okay, so when the officers, when they're trying to get hired on, or before they become officers, our applicants have to write a letter, or an essay on why they want to be a police officer. And without fail, everyone talks about how they want to help people. They're really not writing about, I want to go out and arrest people. Every once in a while you do see, oh, I want to arrest people, I want to tell people what to do, and that, yeah, they never make it on the department. So for whatever reason, and sometimes it gets twisted years in, but we all come on the department because we have this desire to help people. And it's hard outside of retirement, it's hard to get away from that. Paul is really, we have a small business where we look after people's second homes in the area. The area we live is very touristy. So we have a small business that we look after people's second homes that are in the area. And Paul just goes out of his way to help people and to do things for people, for our clients. And so it's just kind of ingrained in us that we want to do that. And so how great is it that you've ended up in a career where you truly get to help people, that it's every bit of it is just you trying to help them have a better life, better, happier life.
And I try and not be too bossy, because, in true coaching, the answer is in the person, and then through the questions, they find the answer within themselves. And I'm good with that, like 99.9% of the time. But every now and then I'm like, come on, stop. You know better than that. Let's get a better answer than that, And then every now and then I'll just come out and go, well, that's a load of crap. You believe that as long as you want to, and your life is going to go the way it's going to go, and you're ready to ask yourself the right question, then we can get the answer. But you're right. It is absolutely, it is service. It is a continued service. And I would like to think that it's safer than what we used to do, but yeah. So and I could see your husband going out of the way to help people. I can really see that. He's a good man.
Yeah, he does.
Do you think that you would have gotten to where you are without your pilgrimage?
I would love to say yes, but I don't think so. I think I would have, just within 6 months, I would have been in another job, and I would have, like, an organized, structured job. I think I would have sat at home for a couple of months, because I do remember that before I went on the Camino, and even for a little while after I came back, I kept thinking, oh, I need to get a job. I should get a job. I need to contribute. I should get a job. I need to be doing something. And it really took me kind of a while to get to the point that I was like, no, I need to invest my time in myself and what I want, rather than just going out and trying to fill my time. And so I think Camino really gave me, well, one, gave me permission to write, but two, it gave me a lot of time to really focus on what I wanted for the rest of my life, and to know that I needed to focus on me and what I wanted, rather than just filling my time. And that's the one thing I say. I tell anybody I talk to that's going to retire, I say, unless your dream job just falls in your lap, try and go a year without working, and take that time to really focus. If you can afford to do that, some people have different situations. Even if they have a pension when they're leaving, they may have a different situation that they need to supplement their income. So I know that is not financially viable for everybody, but if you are financially able, take a year, and there are going to be a million little jobs that come up that you could take, and don't try, unless it's your dream job that you always dreamed of and it just falls in your lap, try and take a year and just focus and think about what you really want to do and how you want to fill your time, not just to fill it. Because I think so many people panic when they have, after a few weeks of being at home, and then they'll just rush back into a job and they never really take that time to figure out what do they really want.
Especially first responders, because we have so much internally that just needs to get into the right place. We have so much things in our head that have to have time to process and stuff. Mm-hmm. I remember the lockdown started right, like the day after I stopped going to work. The lockdown started, so it was a little different for me. But I remember sleeping. I mean, I remember just sleeping and waking up and thinking, wow, I slept. Now, it was still a little dicey. Todd's still active SWAT, so he still has, mm-hmm. His phone and stuff, and I still have my kids, whatever. But it was just a different feeling. And then, we know that there are phases of retirement, just like there's grief and that you go through. There's phases of retirement. And when that panic hits you, you absolutely, like you said, you need to remind yourself, hold on, why am I panicking? And so many of the questions that we have to ask ourselves, we might not even have the answers for yet. And that is, why do I believe that contributing is only defined by income? Or why do I believe that contributing is only defined by being outside of my house 8, 10, 12, 15 hours a day? Mm-hmm. Those types of things. And I, for the first time since I was 12 years old, I wasn't working. And to be able to fold laundry, which I know that you cringe at the thought of that, but I mean, to be able to actually fold the laundry and put it away was like, holy moly, this is awesome. And to be able to do the grocery shopping and to have meals ready for when my husband came home. I mean, I was able to really enjoy that. And now some women are like, well, I didn't work my whole life to do that. Well, you know what? I loved it. I loved being home with the dogs. I liked being able to water the plants before they were almost dead. I liked getting the mail out and opening the mail instead of throwing it someplace and finding it 2 months later. I mean, I just really felt like I was living more of my life. And in all honesty, I was being present is what I was doing. I was being present. And then I, went out and got the little part-time job at the plant shop, but I wanted to do that. And trust me, you don't make any money working retail. So, I mean, I wanted to do that. I wanted to be around the plants. And I think that was part of my steps of, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? And I think that I could have been more kind to myself a lot of times. But on the other hand, I think I handled.
Sorry, I jumped in. I was just going to say I think we all do that. That you think back to the things you've said to yourself and you think, oh, why was I that hard on myself?
Yeah. Yeah. And, when I talk to my clients and I say, well, tell me about your day. And they tell me all these things they're doing. And I'm like, okay, where were you lazy? At what part did you not contribute? To what part did you drop the ball? What part? I mean, is somebody telling you that you're not pulling your weight, or is this all you? And then I have some clients that really aren't doing anything, and it's like, how do you feel about that? And they're like, I feel okay right now. And I said, then that's what's important. That's what's important. We look at their thoughts and their feelings on it. We want to make sure their thoughts and their feelings align with each other. But sometimes you just need a break. Sometimes you just need a break. This morning I get up at 4:30 and to do my workout, and then I take care of a horse and I do all this stuff. And we walk the dog. And then I got home and I'm like, man, I'm really tired. I was like, oh, well, too bad. You better get right to work. And I'm like, wait a minute. I work for myself. I don't have a client this morning. And so I said, I'm going to lay down. And if I'm not asleep in 10 minutes, I'm going to get up. But if if I go to sleep, I'm going to take a nap. I took an hour nap. I woke up thinking, yeah, I'm like, I got it going on, I mean, it was a great decision. It was a great decision. And who did I disappoint? I mean, what ball did I drop? What rule did I break?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
do you recommend that everyone that retires does the Camino?
No, no. You know, we touched on this before. I do think everybody should take a break. Everybody should really spend some time trying to focus on what it is that they want to do. But no, not everybody is going to want to walk across Spain. There are people that would try that and they'd hate it. But what I do suggest is, I talked about trying to go a year without a job, but just even when you retire, if you can just take a week that you kind of get away from, all your commitments, maybe try, not saying leave your phone behind, but have it turned off, stay off social media, and just really take a week and have deep thoughts about what you want to do. And one of the things I think, it's a month and a half that we walked across Spain, or a little over a month. And I think probably a life coach or a coach could get you there a lot quicker and a lot cheaper than a trip to Spain. But it was what I needed to do. But I definitely, I just think everybody should take some time, whether it's a week or a month or a year, but really, and focus, not just kind of float along, but really focus and ask yourself the hard questions. And if you're not getting anywhere with it, exactly, and maybe even before you start the process, talk to a coach and see, like, how can you help me narrow down what questions should I be asking myself? What should I be focusing on to get down to what I really want? Because sometimes we really just don't know.
Is that what you call the reset?
Yes. Yeah, just kind of have a reset of your life. Take a break between your job and because you're going exactly what we're talking about. There are phases of retirement, but there are phases of life, and that you had this big career for many years, and now you're in a different phase now, and to just reset yourself. And this phase is going to be completely different than your last phase. Even if you start a second career, it's not going to be the same. And so yeah, I call it the retirement reset, is just to take that break in between when you retire and when you start living the next portion of your life.
Love it. Love the term, love the thought. What was the hardest part of your retirement?
So, just even saying that there was a hard part of retirement, that's one of the things, because we're so, I do believe in gratitude, that you think every day about the things you're grateful for. Mm-hmm. And I do believe in trying to be positive. And so nobody ever wants to say anything negative about retirement. You feel guilty, like, oh, I made it. I got here. I survived. I made it. I got here. And it should just be fabulous. And it's not. You're still processing everything. Oh. But you don't want to say that to anybody, because it sounds like you're just ungrateful and you're complaining about this really great thing. And so that's what I've found since retirement, is that if you are kind of struggling to find your place, or you're, these feelings, it's not all rainbows and kittens. You don't want to talk to anybody about that, because nobody talks about that. And you feel like, oh, I sound so bratty, like, oh, complaining. So that actually has been really hard. And then too, just kind of adjusting, because we go through, and all we're focused on is just kind of going home every day and getting to the next step and getting to retirement. And then, and so I don't know about everybody else, but I had a lot of stress and anxiety. And so you always just think that that's just going to disappear when you retire, that's all brought on by the job, which most of it is. And that when you retire, just from the moment you retire, everything's going to be perfect. And what you find out is that stress and that anxiety stays with you for a good while. And so you kind of have to then start working through that. And again, that's one of those things nobody talks about. Nobody tells you that retire, you just expect it's going to be this great green pasture. And it is wonderful. A bad day in retirement beats your best day at work. Retirement is fantastic. but just like any phase of life, there are going to be things that you still have to deal with and come to terms with. And I know that when I retired and was kind of going, you kind of have to slow down a bit and figure these things out. And nobody had really talked. So now nobody had really talked about that to me. So now I have a friend retire, I try and talk to them and say, hey, you're going to have some of these emotions, and it's perfectly natural. It's perfectly okay. And, I'm always here to talk, but don't feel like you're the only person. Everybody goes through this, just nobody talks about it. And that's one of the things I try and talk about now to people who I know are going to retire. So.
It's such a gift you can give them. As a retirement life coach, we call it the retirement dirty secret. And it is huge, Jamie. It is huge for the average American who retires. And it's even bigger for first responders, because we carry what I call the extra into our retirement with us that we have to address. And that is the identity, and then the stress, and then just getting back into society, back into community. And then when it's like Todd and I, and you and your husband, and so many other of our girlfriends, our coworkers that are married to other law enforcement people, you have two people in the house dealing with that. But I don't want to even cut or make it light on the civilian spouse of a first responder going through retirement with them, because that's got to suck also. You know what I mean? There's got to be some downfalls to that. Now, Todd is still working, and it's really so funny because people are like, oh, well, yeah, you're a retirement coach because retirement was so easy for you. I'm like, what are you talking about? Then I'm like, well, look at my husband, who is not really even willing to have the conversation about retirement yet because of all the things that you just mentioned. It's a huge thing. It is a huge, huge thing for people. And we have to start talking about it. And so I'm a part of a lot of networking groups and Facebook groups and stuff like that. And somebody will ask a question about retirement. They'll say, hey, my dad's about to retire and I'm really worried. And I'm not kidding. There'll be like 400 responses. And every one of them are like, leave the man alone. He's done enough. Let him sit on the porch. Let him travel, and it's like, well, you know what? Clearly the child asking the question about the parent recognizes that their father is struggling, and they're worried because they see retirement not being a positive thing for that father. And again, it goes back to, like you said, people just don't want to talk about it, and they set themselves up for failure. They waste time, and they waste a lot of money, and they waste a lot of energy. And honestly, they also waste some relationships. There's marriages that could be saved if they started talking about this stuff in advance. We have a lot of people who think, when I retire, everything's going to be fine. Well, your spouse doesn't even like you anymore. You've been at work. They haven't been around you. It's been fine. You're bringing home the paycheck. All of a sudden, you're home in the house all the time. It's not, it's not going to go well.
Yeah.
It's not going to go well. And then we have first responders. They do not understand why they're getting served divorce papers, and it's like, how about we look at these things before it happens? How about we look at the life that you've lived and the life that you want to live and see what we can do to get you there? It's very difficult. There's times when I get off the phone with a client and I'm heartbroken. I'm heartbroken at the situation that they're in. Now, obviously, I'm very hopeful because they are acknowledging it, and that's really a good portion of the battle right there. So you and I have talked about what you have coming up in just a matter of a week? Isn't it just about a week away?
A week and a half. Well, actually a week. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, a week.
So tell us about this next big thing you're doing.
Well, I'm doing another Camino. And so I also across Spain. There are pilgrimages that you can do all over the world. But the one in Spain, it's really great because there's a lot of infrastructure set up, hostels and albergues that make it kind of inexpensive to do. You're surrounded by other hikers, other pilgrims, as we call ourselves. So I'm going to do I'm doing a different route and it will be up on the northern coast of Spain. And we will start right at the French border and then go across Spain, but it'll be a different route than what I took last year. And this one is about 40 more miles than the previous one, so a couple of days extra, and probably going to be a little bit slower as we're 6 years older and than the previous one. And so we're planning about a month and a half. And so, but we'll see. If we finish sooner, great. If we take a little longer, that's fine too. We'll manage. So, so that's doing another Camino.
So you went into the first one hoping for a thought, an emerging thought, a conscious emerging thought. What are you going into this next one opened for?
This one, I'm really wanting to kind of think about balance and how to balance my life better coming out of the Camino, because the writing has kind of taken over my life. And when I say that, I don't even mean that I write so much every day. Some days I don't even write, but I always feel like I should be writing. So I put off doing other things. I put off doing fun things. And I even put off doing things that aren't fun, because it's like, no, I can't do that right now. I need to be writing. And then if I'm not in the mood, I may not write. And so I may spend all day not doing anything because I should be writing and I don't write. And so a lot of things, fitness, the house, different things I've kind of let go by the wayside. And I've gotten into this mindset that I'm not crazy about, where everything is kind of circling around the writing stuff. So what I'm hoping for in this one, I'm really going to focus on finding that balance, and also just kind of taking the word should out of my vocabulary. I read this book recently. I read a book recently where the author said, should have is a horrible place to live. And she was talking really about kind of like in our past, when there are things that happened in the past and you say, oh, I should have done this or I should have done that. But I even think it's important for the present. I don't want to live in should. That I should write, I should be doing this, or I should not. I want to take should out of my vocabulary. I want to focus on the mindset of I get to write today. I get to spend time in the garden today. I get to go for a run today instead of I should be. I get to eat cake today instead of, oh, I shouldn't eat cake. I just want to try and work while I'm on the trail, really kind of try and work on the mindset of get to rather than should. If that makes sense.
Do you see do you see I'm smiling over here, that I'm just like, yes, wonderful. Oh, that's so beautiful, beautiful, beautiful to hear you say that. So kind of a logistical question. Will you be writing at all on this pilgrimage? I mean, will you be writing at all?
I don't think so. What I am thinking, because on my, I've got on my phone, I can do kind of like dictation to text. And so if I'm going to take the outline for the book I'm working on. And if I have some time, I might do just some dictation. But the first one, I can't remember. I think I may have carried an iPad on the first one and never really pulled it out. And I did kind of think about that. But usually what you end up doing is you hike, and at the end of the day, you're busy because you're washing your clothes that you wore. You're getting a bath. Then you're looking for dinner. And then it's pretty much, you sit around, you kind of usually meet other pilgrims and you talk, have a lot of times really deep, nice discussions about what you're doing, why you're doing it, all that. And then it's time for bed, because you're getting up the next morning and walking another 15 to 20 miles. And it's just, with a pack. And so it's just kind of an all day. And I'm sure there are people that do, but I don't think that's what's in the cards for me. And again, I'm doing it to kind of get away from that a little bit and try, and going back to being present, I really want to be present in the Camino and not walk all day and think, oh, how many words can I get in tonight? And, oh, I should be writing. Going back to I should be writing today. I want to just take that out of the equation, kind of.
Okay. So what I am hoping for is that after this next adventure, and after things calm down for you and things fall into place and you get back into your groove, I'm really hoping that we can talk again, formally or informally, but on camera like this, and you can share the next chapter. I think that there are first responders who think that their life has to be tied up in the misery of the world or what we've done or what we've seen or what's been expected of us. And the fact that we have two commanders of a police department, of one of the largest police departments in the country, and we're sitting here and we're talking about our hopes and our dreams and walking across a foreign country and giving ourselves permission to live and breathe and be present and serve the world in a different way, I think could potentially be very hopeful for people.
I hope so.
Yeah, especially.
I was going to say, I know that not trying to make it all about the Camino, but I know there were police officers from Dallas who had done it before we did. That as we started planning it, we found out that one or two had already done it, and then we know that there have been a whole lot since we did it who have gone on to do it. You know, a lot of them got to the idea of the Camino on their own, but then when they'd start talking to people, they would say, oh, well, they'd find out we had done it, and we'd reach out and talk about it and different things. And so I think and I haven't talked to any of them that would ever say don't do it. I think every person I've talked to that did the Camino really got something deep out of it, if nothing else, but just getting a month away from their life and getting to focus on themselves for a month. It's really, it's really worthwhile. But yes, I would love to come back and talk again after this one. We'll see. This route is supposed to be actually really harder than the first route. And again, 6 years on and everything, we'll see how that goes. But it's going to be a lot of fun, I think. I think we're going to have a really good time on it.
So the big question that we always end on, and this is something that Todd wants me to ask all of our guests, is how does Jamie Keough want to be remembered?
This sounds just so superficial, but the very first word that comes to mind is fun. Yeah. I would like to be remembered as a fun person. And I know I should be, I wish I was remembered as a good friend or, someone who was always there for somebody or whatever. There are all these things that would be nicer things to say, but it was funny because the very first word that came to mind was fun. I like to be fun. If we're doing something, I want it to be fun. And so I think that's how I'd like to be remembered.
Well, nothing says you can't be all those other things in the process of being fun.
Yes.
So, yeah. And I think you
fun
have,
is
I
just
think
what came to mind.
Excuse me?
Fun was just like, as soon as you asked me, that was all I could think of was the word fun. That's why I was kind of smiling, was I was like, I don't think this is a great answer, but screw it.
I think it's perfect. And I think the people that know you, like anybody who watches this or listens to it, who knows you, I think they would agree with you. I think it's very authentic. So thank you very much for being so honest with us. So Jamie, I can't thank you enough. I know it's like some crazy time in Ireland right now while we're recording this. And I know you had to turn everything off in your house so that you had enough internet to do this. And I know that your dog has been running around and wanting your attention. So thank you so very, very much.
Well, thanks for having me. I loved it. And I'll be looking forward to talking to you when we get back.
Yay!